Of course, there's going to be failure at times. You will not always succeed from the first attempt. Sometimes you need to try and adapt different techniques and methods to achieve different goals. So I suppose one thing that I learned from my business mentors when I was younger was that you should not look at failure as failure, but and you should accept it as a learning. So every fail is actually something that you learned.
Hi, Dani. How are you?
Hi, Garrett. I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, we're good. We're good.
Lovely to see you. Thank you for joining us this morning. Still the morning time, yes.
Thank you for having me.
Where are you? London, are you?
Yes, I'm London-based.
Oh, lovely, lovely.
But not a London accent.
Place.
No, not in the London accent. I was originally born in Bulgaria, moved to the UK about 13 years ago, I think, now.
Wow. Yeah, that's good. Have you been in London for most of that time then?
Yes, I've lived in London ever since. I initially moved to study. So I did my master's in London. I graduated at UCL with strategic project management. I did a master's there, and then I just stayed. It just made more sense to stay and try and apply my knowledge and build a career in London, just because of all the opportunities. And you're just in the middle of business, really. I mean, that's the best place if you want to build a career in business.
Oh yeah, it's a great place, London, isn't it? It's there's so much going on. I miss going there. Actually, we were only talking about that the other day. That we need to get back out and about and kind of get back up to the big smoke, as we call it. Which would be good. But yeah, I guess as we're kind of doing that, let's do your journey then. Tell us about your journey and where it all began.
So when I initially moved here, I started working for a major franchisor, and I was heading their marketing and branding teams. And at the same time, I was studying and doing my master's. So it wasn't easy, but it was one of the best decisions I've made for myself, because that skyrocketed my career. By that time, I felt I was plateauing in terms of knowledge after graduating with and having my first degree. So it was quite nice to add more theory and having the practice in place together. It all made sense. It was a piece of the puzzle that was missing. I also ended up buying a franchise while I was studying, so that helped me pay the extortionate tuition fees that we're famous about in the UK. Well, long story short, after that, after a few years in franchise marketing client side, I decided to move, and I founded my business that is a franchise marketing agency called Franchise Fame. So we work with global franchise brands, and we help them grow in the digital space, find new partners that want to invest in, buy into their franchising model. And in this way, we enable a lot of people who are aspiring entrepreneurs and maybe not necessarily have followed up on that dream to quit their 9-to-5 and start their own business and be their own bosses.
Amazing. Dani, can I pick up on one of the things there? Were you working full-time as well as doing the masters, or was it full-time masters and working, or was it just masters?
It was full-time work and full-time study.
Wow. Okay.
It was 2 years of no social life and no weekends. But
I was going to say, how do you manage spinning those two plates? Because everyone, especially in the last 2 years, have found, the thing of being employed or having a job as stressful enough, but having to spin that plate of being employed and doing a really high level educational course as well. How did you manage that?
I would say, well, resilience is a word that you've heard a lot on the podcast and you spoke about. I should probably thank my employers as well, because I had their support. So they were quite happy for me to go to school for one day of the working week and support me in that way. So they didn't pay physically for my tuition, but they did say you can work for 4 days a week, and one of the days you can go to school, and we're not going to decrease your salary or wage in any way, but because we see it as a long-term investment and all the knowledge that you will gain from that is going to contribute directly to our business, we're happy to support you in this way, which I'm very grateful for. And it does not happen that often, but when someone sees the long-term, the long view and the big picture, it does help, because all the knowledge that I learned and got from the masters, I did apply in the business, and it helped them. So it was a great investment from their end as well.
So that also took up, I presume, a lot of your evenings and probably a lot of your weekends, which potentially would that have impacted on your fondness for playing sports and stuff like that? How is that another thing that you had to try and balance?
Yeah, of course. Well, there was literally no weekends or social lives or evenings, just because I would go home after a busy day at work and would need to work on an assignment that and a deadline was creeping in. So once, I suppose, you know why you're doing it, and you have that, again, the end goal in mind, that is your driver. I did have to make some personal sacrifices, but I knew that was temporary, and I knew that would enable me to get a better career or get a promotion, or back then, it was back in 2015, before the pandemic. So life was very different back then. Everyone was out and about. So yeah, it was quite difficult, I would say. But once you know what you're aiming for and what you'd like to achieve, I think the sacrifices come naturally, and you're happy to give them up, as long as you know it's there's that goal and that vision in mind that you've got.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. It's short-term pain for long-term gain, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And I think people forget that. You know, we're big advocates of, I guess, learning and education, and kind of, I guess, teaching ourselves skills outside our arena of what we do. But yeah, we did a lot during kind of lockdown, a lot of courses, a lot of learning, and yeah, it's painful. And yeah, you know, we probably turned down a lot of work and didn't do as much work as we kind of could have during that time. But we knew it was the short term for the long term gain of what we want to achieve and what we want to achieve for our clients and everybody. So yeah, and I think people need to understand that, don't they? To kind of don't get hung up on the fact that, yeah, I'm gonna have to can my social life a little bit for the next couple of years or 18 months, whatever it is. You've got all your life ahead of you as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a payoff, as you said it yourself. I do hold a passion for sports, and for me, it's very important, and it balances out, I think, in a sense where, because of the dynamics of and the line of work that I'm in, that can be very stressful and can be long hours, I need something to vent out. And sports is that passion that enables me to empty my head after a stressful day. It's a de-stressor. And after a workout, usually I would go and have a workout at the gym just in my lunch break. So it breaks my day quite neatly. So if we're doing urgent things in the agency in the morning and putting out fires, you would go and have a workout that helps you relax and just clears your brain. And then I would focus on more strategic planning in the afternoon, and I'll be well rested, because I've released that negative energy or stress at the gym.
I love that idea. The one thing I took from earlier on is the next time there is a massive lockdown. So the best time to do a master's in London was probably started in February, March 2020, when everything else is locked down and you can do nothing but just get the books out and just hit it hard. You picked up there sport. I love, excuse me, I love hitting the gym in the morning. And for me, it's a routine. It has to be done. And for me, it almost gives me trying to explain to people, I'm using energy to create energy and endorphins to get me through the day. So off camera, you said you hit it in the mornings. Is your gym time determined by your work schedule, where you said there, if there's something important, do you always get in the morning, or do you go morning and afternoon, or is it worked? Is your gym session, I'm trying to say, is that worked around your work life, or is your health life worked around your work?
I think it fluctuates. Well, it differs because sometimes I would go mornings, but if I have a very early morning call because of work, we're a global agency. So we work with Australia and the US as well, and Europe. So sometimes you catch yourself on 8 p.m. Speaking to the States, or 6 a.m. speaking to Brisbane, which is the only time where actually in East Coast Australia you can actually work with. So I would then change my or adapt my routine, my workouts around that. But usually morning and lunchtime is when I hit the gym, and football is in the evening. So often I would have 2 workout sessions: the morning strength training at the gym, and then evening would be a football training, or just a game, a 5-a-side game with friends, just grassroots level.
We're not allowed to talk about 5-a-side games anymore on these podcasts. Or my Achilles.
Yeah, that's like 2 years old now. We're not gonna dig that one back up. So I guess exercise is a non-negotiable then.
Absolutely. It's as I explain it, similarly to my friends, I tell them that I needed to get going. I need this to be able to function, and sports and work life are in such a balance that if you take one out, the other one wouldn't necessarily work. I mean, if it takes sport out, I wouldn't be as productive or as efficient at work, just because it's, as you said yourself, it creates, well, you spend energy to create energy, and one is obviously physical energy, and the other one is well, I think mental health also is influenced by sports in that respect.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it just keeps me sane, I would say, without exaggerating. Sports keeps you sane, especially if you're in a stressful line of work.
It's almost as a symbiotic that one coexists with the other, and work is more productive as a result of increased physical activities, plus mental health can be either reduced or eliminated as a result of physical exercise, which has an impact on physical health as well as mental health and work related. So everything is joined up, and it's getting that balance right.
Yeah, very well put. Absolutely, very well put. And I see a lot of people at senior management or C-level positions that have very busy routines and schedules and stressful work. They find their ways to de-stress. Very often people drink. I mean, just a single drink, it might be one odd drink at the end of the day, just a pint at the pub, but it just helps with stress. I choose to work out. That's my way, and it's better and it's healthier, and it does help me just stay on track and be focused.
Yeah, and I think that using the kind of drink analogy there is that's a dangerous one, because you can get obsessed with fitness, and okay, you take yourself to another level, but you don't want to get obsessed with the drink, because that takes you to a totally different level, doesn't it? Because you see it, I've heard of it, and I know people who do it. They'll go out lunchtime and have a couple of drinks just to kind of get themselves set up for the afternoon. I'd be no good if I did that. At the end of the day, I'd have to have a lie down, I think. But yeah, it's a dangerous cycle to get into, using drink to kind of de-stress, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's almost like we live in a society, even here in the UK, it's almost like it's a social must. It's socially accepted to drink, but it's a bit odd if you don't drink.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I've had questions because I gave up alcohol in April last year, so almost 10 months now. And it just served as a barrier to achieving my fitness goals. I wasn't much of a drinker before. I'll be socially drinking over the weekend. I would never drink at home by myself. But I just said to myself, I wake up incredibly early on weekends, because this is when I have a bigger pound of like I play Sunday league. We've got matches, I've got commitments, and I try to be as productive with my spare time as possible. So waking up early on the weekend does not really go hand in hand with hangover or drinking the previous night. So I just said to myself, let's try it out. It's not a big deal. It's a commitment that I'd like to, just committed to your fitness goals and achieving certain targets that you've put for yourself. And if that serves as a barrier, there's no point in making 2 steps progress and 1 step back, sort of thing. And I've been feeling my greatest ever since, to be honest.
Yeah, I get that. I've toyed with that idea now, because I think we mentioned off camera, I did a long stint of kind of not having a kind of drink. I don't drink at home anyway. I'm a social drinker. I do like to kind of go out for like sport and things like that and catch up with friends and kind of have a drink. But, you know, I haven't had a drink since I think the 17th of December now, which is a fair old stint for most people. I know a lot of people do dry January, but it's watch this space for me. I think I might head that way. He laughs at me, but I get it. It's kind of like it does cloud your judgment, and the anxiety drinking the day after gives you is I don't miss stuff like that.
Dani, can I pick on that? Has anything changed in your life? And by that, I'm trying to put into words the fact that you have said, I've decided to give up drink, even as a social thing. Did it impact on friend circles, what you did in going out? And if it did or didn't, we know it has more of a positive impact on your sporting side now, which is all good. But did you have to have time to think of it? Did circles of friends not evaporate or go or spend less time with them because it was around the drinking culture? Because as we chatted off air, back in Ireland, it was very much for many years built around a drinking culture, and it's slowly starting to change. So has the circle of friends, when you decide to slow down drinking or give up, has that changed the dynamics of friendships or anything in any way?
It did a little bit. Obviously, your best friends or your closest will always be there to support you. So I do have a very small circle of close friends that would always support me through that initiative. And some of them don't drink at all or drink very occasionally. So it was a natural thing. For the wider part of my acquaintances and friends, that did change a little bit, because it was all around socially meeting in a pub and having a few drinks. So I had weird questions. I had questions like, are you in the AA, or are you sick? You must be sick, or there's no other reason to give up alcohol. And it just makes you think, how is society conditioned to drinking, how widely accepted that is, and almost if you don't do it, there's something wrong with you, or you must have an illness, or you must have an issue with alcohol. So
but that's changing.
Yeah, sorry, but I hope it's changing. But naturally, I did stop seeing certain people or certain circles of friends. Well, at least not as regularly. I still keep in touch with them, but it won't be that evening out with drinks, but it would be a cup of coffee, or just different. It just changes.
It's called getting old as well.
Probably.
May I ask you then, what is the biggest motivation for you, or what's a big drive in your life?
I've always been passionate about equality, and me being a woman, a female entrepreneur in the business world, has always had a drive. I wanted to prove that women are as good as men in business or in football, or just I've just been very passionate about gender equality in general. So that's a driver of mine since I was a little girl. I grew up in a very patriarchal society. I was often told, oh, you can't do this. This is not ladylike, or you can't play football. This is a boys' game. And even boys didn't want to play with me because I'm a girl. And when I was very little, and I couldn't quite grasp why. I was like, but why? I'm equally good, or I'm even better at than some of the boys that were playing there, but they would still not allow me. And I thought it was quite unfair. And then later on at school or at uni or at work, you kind of see these, some people that make comments, and they'll be like, okay, but that's not very ladylike, or what would you, or just things like that. And I was like, actually, I can do whatever I want to with my life, and I can be whoever I want to. So that has always been a driver of mine, just to be a successful woman, and just inspire other younger women that they can have a career in business, or they can be a sports person in any sport.
So we usually ask a question about mental toughness or mental resilience, and how people cope with being entrepreneurs, how they cope with the outside world and put on a brave face when, pardon my French, they're having a shit day. But it seems from a very early age with you, you all almost had to be really mentally tough to try and push the boundaries of equality, from not just from being an entrepreneur, but from being even younger than a teenager. How did you cope from that young of an age with dealing with the bad days that may initially come with not being accepted on a football team, to even the bad days in work now?
I suppose if you love something and you enjoy it, you don't give up. I've always been very consistent in everything that I did. When I set a target for myself, I don't stop until I achieve it. Then I reward myself, and then I move on to the next goal or the next target. So I've always been quite consistent with everything that I do. Of course, there's going to be failure at times. You will not always succeed from the first attempt. Sometimes you need to try and adapt different techniques and methods to achieve different goals. So I suppose one thing that I learned from my business mentors when I was younger was that you should not look at failure as failure, but and you should accept it as a learning. So every fail is actually something that you learned, and you need to adapt or just stand up, dust off, and just continue and try something else. So if you don't focus on the failure or not being successful, but focus on the part that you've learned and you've got something out of it, and then you move on and try something else, you will at the end get to that final goal of yours. So I think just having a positive mind and not focusing on the negatives, but just being consistent and thinking about failure as learning and cracking on with it.
Yeah, that's a big one. It's something we talk about a lot, and I'm a big fan of you control the controllables. You can only control what you can control in life. And I heard a good thing where someone said failure is feedback. Yeah. So you take from failure the good things, and the bad things go, well, actually, I'm not going to do that again. But actually, there were some good things that came out of this. But yeah, I'm a huge advocate of we can only control what we can control. And sometimes we all forget that. And, we can't control the weather. So, if you hate it, move to a warmer climate. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of, we can't control that. So it's a big thing for me. So yeah, I get that 100%.
If you set a target, that's really interesting, all that you're chatting about. If you set a goal, a target, a plan to save £1,000 and you save £999, technically you have failed. But I suppose the way you're talking about it is I can review, adapt, and work out how I've done so well to get £999, and then next time hit that 1,000, because not every failure is a black and white failure.
Absolutely, it depends on how you see it, and yeah, the glass is half full or half empty, up to you. But you've already done huge progress by saving 999. So and I'm the type of person that would probably not have lunch, but will save that extra pound to hit the target.
You touched earlier, now we're talking about money, and it may not be money. You said, when I achieve things, I reward myself. Tell me more about what rewarding yourself means.
So for me, it's very important that you don't always constantly grind, because, everyone talks about the grind. Yeah, that's fine. It's part of the process, but you need to pat yourself on the back a little bit once you achieve, and once this is over, to give yourself some sort of credit, appreciation, and a reward. It doesn't have to be something tangible or something materialistic. You could be just tickets to the West End, or go for a nice dinner, or go for holidays, or anything really that you'd like, but you do want to dedicate a certain moment or time, or something that you did for yourself. Could be a spa getaway or whatever, to say that actually I did this because I graduated that, or I hit that ambitious target, or I did this. Because otherwise it kind of removes the joy out of achievement. Why would you be doing this? And then for the next goal, you wouldn't be as motivated to hit that goal on time, or within scope or budget, or whatever, because there's no rewards, or there's no positive moment. It's almost like NFP, like neuro-linguistic programming, or almost like Pavlov's experiment with the dog, if you recall, where, there has to be certain reward. This is how we function. I know it's a very basic example, but that's how we function. You only achieve, or you only give 100% or your best if you know that there's a prize at the end of it.
Is it the case that the reward is not only a reward for the previous achievement, but when something is hard, be it work related or if you use a sporting context, trying to lift that extra weight in the gym or trying to run that distance harder, in your mind, you can almost try and raise to that next level by saying, do you remember how the reward felt last time? Well, if you do it again this time, you're going to reward yourself again. So it's that extra motivation or push to get you over the line.
Yeah, absolutely. It's more for the next goal that you'd like to achieve, because you remember that feeling. Your brain produces the serotonin or other hormone levels that make the happiness hormones, and then you're like, okay, that's going to be my next target. Well, I'm going to feel this way once I achieve this next thing. So yeah, you kind of learn on the go, and your brain remembers, and you remember the feeling of happiness once you achieved something. Otherwise, if you remove the joy element, there's not really a driver behind achieving that goal, that next goal in particular.
Absolutely. We talk a lot in the previous two series about freedom, and more specifically financial freedom. By that we mean the ability to do what you want when you want, without the fear of ever running out of money. Have you made plans yourself so that you can enjoy the next decade, 2 decades, and plan ahead like that?
At the moment, I'm in a stage where I invest most of my time and into business. So the return on investment, hopefully in the next decade, will allow me to achieve that financial independence. Of course, I do feel in a sense that I've already achieved it to a certain extent. I think just in a lot of the cases, we need to be grateful for what we have. That's always a reminder that I keep going back to, just because when I started from a modest background. My parents were quite modest, and I've always been taught to appreciate what I have and to build up on that. It was never given to me, or it was never granted to me. I was never entitled. I had to work for every penny. I had to work and save for my education and all that. So in a sense, I'm grateful to where I'm at, but also I do have plans and goals, but it's not a must-have. I'm happy with my current state. And as an example, when the pandemic hit back in 2021, last year actually, in February, there was the second lockdown that was coming in the UK. And I just dreaded it. I did not want to spend a minute more after Christmas here being locked again. So I had this dream of mine. I had always had that dream of mine since a little kid to visit Brazil. Because I associate Brazil with football. I was a big fan of the Brazilian golden era of football with Kaká and Ronaldinho and the true Ronaldo and all these big names. So
I love how you got the true Ronaldo in there. That is superb, yeah.
So I had this idea. I wrote an article about it, actually. It's on my LinkedIn profile. I had this idea, very bold at that time, to just go to Brazil because flights were so cheap. The weather is amazing. It's sunny. But back then there was the Brazilian variant that was scaring the whole globe. And everyone was trying to flee out of that country. I was the only one with the idea to go there. So naturally, my parents and my family were quite against the situation, well, the idea, and they said, don't go, it's dangerous. But I decided to be brave and bold, and because of work, that we can work from any point of the world as long as you have a decent internet connection in the agency. So I said to myself, my business is not going to suffer in any way. Why not just do it? There's never a better time to follow your dreams than now, because if you keep postponing and just hide in that convenient or comfort zone of yours, and say, okay, now is not the right time to launch this product or launch this service. Now is not the right time to follow my dream. And you can always find excuses. That's how our brain works. We want to be safe. You always find excuses not to do something. But sometimes you just need to push yourself and just go. And I did it. On the 13th of February, I embarked on an airplane to Brazil. I think it was 5 of us on the whole aircraft or something. There was nobody flying to there. And it was one of the best decisions I've ever made for myself. I stayed there for 2 months. I signed up for a training camp, football training camp on the beach. I played every day. I worked half of the day I spent on the beach working on my fitness and ball control and just playing. And it was a dream come true. I was the happiest I've ever been, but also I was the most, I was top of my game in terms of business as well, because I was so happy and I was following my dream. And I was also very productive. I was smashing conference calls, plans, working with the team despite the time difference and all that. So I suppose bottom line is that I wouldn't have been able to do this if I wasn't financially independent. And that brought me happiness. Yes, I'm not a millionaire yet, but we're working towards achieving more. But sometimes we just need to sit back, relax, and say, actually, am I happy? Can I do the basic things that make me happy? Or and if you answer with a yes to that question, well, you are financially independent. You'll have financial freedom to be happy and to live your life happily. So you just need to quantify what financial independence means for you.
You seem to align your spending with what is valuable to you, which ultimately led to extreme happiness, which brought an air of, or an aura around you of just, I can do anything, which increased productivity and work. So it's gone back to earlier on. Everything is interrelated. So if you can make sure you get them all correct, and you position enough of time on you as well, it's not always about work, because work can actually be as productive, if not more productive, if you look after yourself and do what you want to do as well. Did you say earlier on about the grind? Forget about the grind, work hard and play hard as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so important. And we kind of tend to forget that sometimes. We're so focused on our routines and day-to-day tasks. And you often speak to people and you ask them, what makes you happy? And you don't get an answer to that, or it takes them a while to actually snap out of the whole routine and think about why they're doing it, or what actually keeps them going. You'll be surprised how often I don't get an answer to that.
I think the simple answer to that is they probably don't know, or never really considered it. And I think, like you talked about, you just get stuck in the grind and forget actually what you're doing it for originally.
Yeah, that's probably why I'm so passionate about franchising, actually, because franchising as a business model gives you so much opportunity in terms of being financially independent. A lot of people have entrepreneurial dreams, or at some point in their life have had a business idea, but they never followed up on it because they were not sure if they can succeed on their own. Entrepreneurship, as we know, can be quite a lonely place and can be very challenging to start something from scratch. So they were either afraid or they didn't know how to start, or they didn't have the right backing. So franchising provides that great opportunity where you have support and information, and it's a proven business model that you need to replicate. So you're buying into an already successful business, and you have that continuous support and continuous mentorship and training and advice, so that you can start with a higher level of certainty and a higher level of success probability.
Yeah, I don't know a huge amount about the franchise model and everything, but I kind of get the concept of it, and I think it's great because it gives you that ability to become entrepreneurial by taking an element of the risk out of it, because I guess it gives you a process, procedures in place. So you can actually just concentrate on the actual skill you bring into it.
Yeah, absolutely. It eliminates the risk, it mitigates risk, and it also teaches you, because if you were so far have only been an employee, you're probably good at something specific, but you don't necessarily have or possess or all the qualities needed for sort of 360 operations of a business, whether that's finance, marketing, and all that. So once you get that support, and you've got the franchise manual, the operations manual, you've got the peer network is so valuable as well, because you are placed in an environment with other peers that have already been successful, and they probably had the same struggles or the same challenges at first. So you've got that network where you can ask questions and be supported. You also have the franchisor looking after you and telling you exactly what to expect when you're breaking even, what is done, how it's done the right way. So it kind of eases off a little bit of from the burden of being an entrepreneur on your own. And it teaches you how to do that in the best way possible, in the most cost-effective way, without the trial and error that you'd usually have to undergo on your own.
Yeah, that's good. You kind of touched on, I guess, with the support group side of it. Like it's a lonely place being an entrepreneur.
Absolutely.
We speak to many. We've got a lot of them as clients because that's our kind of specialism. And we're quite lucky because we get to bounce ideas off each other within the business. But then we also have people who we go to also kind of have a kind of higher level chat about things, don't we? Because people outside what we do, because you become so kind of focused on what you do and you actually forget about actually business can be a lot more simple, and sometimes we overcomplicate it. But yeah, I think that, like you say, that having that support network is a huge thing. And some people forget about that because it is a lonely place. I saw somebody put something out on LinkedIn the other day who was in the same kind of arena of us, and you can see he's obviously struggling because he is just a one-man band, and he doesn't have that support network around him. And when the chips are down, it's just you. And other people don't understand. Sometimes you can go home to your partner, but they don't understand where you kind of are when you're in that kind of hole.
Yeah, it's stepping outside of your comfort zone. It's not the same as having a paycheck at the end of every month where you're an employee. And a lot of employee sort of thinking is always saying, why is the big reward or the big bucks, going to the owner of the company? But there's so much risk, and they don't see the endless hours of work that you put in, the stress, especially around the pandemic. A lot of the businesses suffered a huge hit. And there was so much stress, and I'm talking more exactly the sleepless hours, the nights where some of the businesses that we work with lost over 70% of their revenue over a week. And at that time, it was turbulent time, unprecedented times. You don't know even if you're going to be in business in a couple of months. You start thinking about difficult decisions to make, and that level of stress, that level of worrying, and just lack of support, and the feeling of being alone at that moment is it's a dreadful place to be in, to be honest.
Yeah, no, it is, and I think that's certainly been heightened over the last couple of years for people as well. But yeah, I think having that support network for me is huge, and that ability to kind of bounce ideas off, and I just that we've built processes in place, and we're still building them, because we want that ability within our business to be able to, when we bring people in, go, well, there's the manual effectively for doing this. And that's effectively what franchising brings, doesn't it, really?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's all about relationships. It's building relationships with your franchisee network or your partners. It's building relationships with vendors in your supply chain. It's building relationships with your end clients, thanks to whom you've got business and your reputation. And it's just a 360 relationship building. I'm particularly passionate about it because of the way it contributes to local communities as well. So it opens more jobs, creates more economic growth in that way, and decent work opportunities. And those are global UN goals as well. So franchising is just a brilliant model that on the one hand helps people achieve their entrepreneurial dreams, but on the other hand, it also supports local communities by creating more opportunities for them and giving equal opportunities to people, both whether they're like from the same different ethnic backgrounds, men or women. It just links very nicely to my passion, or my roots passion of equality and gender equality, because you can be an entrepreneur, a very successful entrepreneur, and you can come from anywhere, and your success probability is quite high up if you buy into a franchise.
Yeah, exactly. So on the new season of this podcast, we've introduced effectively like quick fire question round. You don't have to be like really quick answers, but kind of we're going to go for these 3 questions now. So have a sip of water and we can fire away. So this is a double header, the first question actually. What's the best and worst advice you received around money growing up?
Best advice came from my parents because they made me work for every penny. If I wanted to buy anything, like a new pair of kicks, very expensive back in the days, that they couldn't afford anyway, but even if they could, I don't think they would have bought them for me. I remember my dad saying, I was 13, I remember him saying, you have to work, get a summer job so that you can buy yourself those kicks or those sneakers. And I didn't quite understand him back then, but it actually built a very solid foundation of appreciating every penny that you earn, and also hard work. And the worst advice, to be honest, I can't think of a poor advice that I've been given about money. That you should always want some more, I suppose. I mean, I think just sitting down and just being happy with what you have is very important. So I think the whole paper chasing thing is very easy to fall in that trap, looking at social media, looking at celebrities and all that. So, just money is never enough sort of thing. I've heard it from friends. I've heard it from everyone around me. And it slips in the conversation. I think that's the worst advice, because as long as you're happy and you're financially independent, then you can do things that make you happy. I think that's enough.
Exactly. Don't do things to make other people happy sometimes, isn't it?
Mm.
So next one, who do you look up to and who inspires you and why?
Oh, and so someone living, or it doesn't?
Whatever works best for you.
So Maria Curie has always been a very big admiration, and she's the first woman that won the Nobel Prize. And without her inventions, we wouldn't be that advanced in terms of medical and just medicine and X-ray and all that. So, and she's given her life for that. So she's been a real passion and inspiration of mine because of being the first woman that won a Nobel Prize. But also, I should say, footballers, and there's quite a few footballers and coaches that I look up to because of their resilience and because of their achievement. And it's not as easy as it looks on TV. You have to sacrifice a lot to achieve such greatness.
This is where we could become very confrontational. Go on, give me a name of one, and I'll do thumbs up or thumbs down.
Oh, my best football player, my top 3 of all time. So.
Yeah, go on then.
Well, I'm a Red Devil, so of course.
Oh no!
I look up to Sir Alex Ferguson and his achievements with the team, of course. But that is it comes natural. I would say one of the best players that I found is Ronaldinho. I really, really, really like Ronaldinho. It's a next level of footballer and an entertainer. He dances with the ball, and just in general, athletes, you can learn a lot from athletes, and you can kind of use that in business as well. Their motivations, their struggles, the sacrifices they make to achieve or win that prize or win that competition, and it's all down to them. And yeah, being an entrepreneur, you can have a big parallel compared to a sports person. You kind of have the same struggles, but the reward is there if you are committed and if you are resilient.
Somebody sent me a picture yesterday. I'm just going to read it out now. Usain Bolt won 8 gold medals in 3 Olympics, and he only ran for less than 115 seconds on the track, earning $119 million. That's economy of effort. But for those 2 minutes, he trained for 20 years.
Absolutely. you have to put in that 20 years or what, not of really hard work and dedication and sacrifice to achieve greatness. And that's something that really have always inspired me to try and achieve greatness in business the same way as in sports, as a sports person.
Yeah, I think Steve Jobs coined a phrase of the 10-year overnight success, didn't he?
Yeah, no, it does not happen overnight.
No. There is a contradiction to that, but I won't go into that. Some of these YouTube stars who are about 8 years old and have managed to kind of earn millions and millions in about a year's time of being on YouTube, they do contradict the norm though with that.
And you don't know how sustainable that is. For me, it's all about sustainability in the long run, rather than just something temporary and getting on the news and achieving fame is different. The long-term fame is important.
Okay, last one. What's your superpower? Basically something that you're kind of ridiculously good at.
Keepy-ups.
Keepy-uppies. No, I'm joking. I'm ridiculously good at keepy-uppies, but no, I would say the fact that I'm consistent and I don't give up. So my mom used to call me stubborn when I was younger. I really thought this is going to help at some point in my life, being stubborn and be a positive quality than actually a negative one. I don't think I'm stubborn. I think I'm just very consistent at what I do. And that is, even if I fail an X amount of times or learn X amount of times, and I would not give it up until I achieve what I've put my mind to.
Keepy-uppies now don't involve just your left foot and right foot. It has to be your knee and your head as well.
Yes, absolutely. Chest, shoulder, the whole thing.
But look, consistency is a massive thing, and we talk about it all the time. And I have a lot of people kind of come to me around kind of social media things that we do quite a bit on social media, and I've been building my following over time, and everyone's like, how do you do it? Like I post something and no one's interested. I was like, it's all about consistency. I've been consistently posting. I don't think I've missed posting on Instagram for over 12 months now. I think I posted every single day, and that's consistency. And if you don't have it, people just think you can do things these days, stick something out on Facebook, stick something out on Instagram, or they do it for a week and they think it's going to change their life and change their business. But like you say, it's all about consistency. The more consistent and positive you can be, it's the only way you're going to do it.
Yeah, and then with consistency, you also learn and you get better and you improve and refine. So once you've done 1,000 pitches, for example, you're really good at pitching. Once you've published 1,000 articles, you're really good at writing articles. Once you've done 100 business deals, you're great at doing that. So it kind of has that other element of just refining your skills. That's how you get, because of course, if you're repeating exactly the same thing, I think Einstein said it over and over again, that does not work. You're not going to get a different output. You have to adapt and change and better and improve, and then you repeat, and finally you get where you're headed to.
Yeah, the definition of insanity, isn't it? Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result.
It's mad. It's mad.
What's that thing? I'm going to try and remember it. You'll always get what you always got if you always do what you always did. So if you don't change and pivot and adapt, things are not going to change. Dani, last one. We probably kept you far too long. We didn't, but it was being really, really enjoyable chatting. Even though I'm not sure about Sir Alex. I'm on the fence with that. I think
I'd agree with that one,
King Klopp. What is next for you?
Next, it's exciting times ahead of us with Franchise Fame, just because we're building campaigns and getting out there to attract more and more clients and work with more franchisors. So in terms of business, very exciting times. I'm also looking forward to having my book published in April. So I wrote a book on franchise marketing that's called Franchise Fame as well. So this is coming up in April, and I'm very excited. I've never done anything like this before. From a personal perspective, I do play, I'm an amateur athlete, and I play a sport called tegball as well. Tegball is a very new emerging sport that is kind of like ping pong with a football table, where They play on a ping pong table with it. And I took part in the World Championships in December last year, and I'm playing in the French Open in March.
Representing who?
Sorry?
Representing
My home country, Bulgaria.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. And it was a lovely event. And it's just these things make me happy. It's something basic, but going and playing at the level, even if it's professional, semi-professional, these things make me happy and keep my mind off work. So it kind of balances off, as we agreed. So that's next. A lot of work, but exciting work, and seeing your business grow, hopefully, and then at the same time hopefully performing well as an athlete.
Brilliant.
Amazing. Thanks, Dani.
Thank you very much for coming on. We will keep an eye out for you in any World Championships, and we will put a date in the diary to basically remind everyone of